Our 2023 F1 season review. Hello everybody and welcome back to the P1 podcast. With Matt and Tommy, we are here today to review 2023 F1 season, but in our favourite moments, not just from us, but from you wonderful listeners and watchers at home as well, which means we have collated what looks like to me the greatest season of all time. Tommy, isn't that right?
Yeah, it's pretty much, I think, like the 10 best moments and basically the 10 things that happened during the 2023 F1 season.
That wasn't anything to do with Verstappen, basically. Oh, no, some things are actually about Max as well.
He gets a mention a few times. But yeah, you'll be unsurprised what the most popular one was, but we'll get into that later.
Anyway, no, that was mine. Right, before we get into it, we need to share a 5-star review. And if you want yours to be read out, please do leave us a 5-star review. Let us know why. Because we're at the end of the season. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please just take a minute to let us know why you love this podcast. We read all of them. We love them and it helps us massively. So thank you very much. This one comes in from God Emperor 09 in the US of A. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable Formula One fan to enjoy this podcast. Let's be honest, the hosts aren't always experts. All right, Jesus, this is a good or bad thing. Which is perfect. The hosts are basically two guys chatting, enjoying F1 together and analysing its many topics. And for folks like me who are from small towns and cannot enjoy Formula One with anybody else, I find it keeps F1 interesting and enjoyable. So guys, keep it up. Fantastic podcast. I can't believe we're not experts, Tommy.
I've been saying this all along. Don't listen
I thought
to
we were.
our opinions. No. I've read enough driver ratings comments to know that I'm not an expert.
Love it. Okay, then. Right, let's start at the very beginning of the season with Bahrain. And no surprise, this is where Tom Bellingham's favourite moment comes in. You peaked at the very first race of the year.
I sure did. My favourite moment was, of course, Fernando Alonso passing Lewis Hamilton and just that battle in general between the two of them. Like you say, first race of the season, peaked early, but, you know, such an exciting season. We just launched P1 as well. It's my birthday. We were on Twitch and we got to see Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton race wheel to wheel. And we were like, wow, the greatest season ever is on the way. But joking aside, the move, oh my word, the move was so good. And yeah, it was just Fernando doing Fernando things. The thing I liked about it the most was I am basically a boomer when it comes to Formula One racing, and I find DRS passes, while necessary, and I understand that there's a necessity of DRS to make the racing close, sometimes the passing in DRS zones can be a bit meh. But the fact that Fernando did it in an unexpected place, and we were, you know, if you watch our reaction on Twitch, we just didn't expect it. The commentators didn't expect it because you just assumed that he'd wait and then DRS down the main straight. But no, sold him the dummy, dived down the inside of the turn 10 hairpin, and what a move. And then had DRS. Hairpin? Yeah, it is a hairpin, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a wonky hairpin.
Yeah.
It's like yeah. Interesting. Well, either or, I'm not surprised that this is your favourite moment. And it's funny that you kind of mentioned our P1 just launched. It was your birthday. Fernando Alonso's in a quick car. All things seem to be good, hey? Apart from the fact Charles Leclerc retired. But you didn't fancy saying that part, did you? Didn't fancy saying that he gifted a lovely little P3 to Fernando. He definitely wasn't going to lose it on track. Not at all. No chance. He would have fought tooth and nail to keep that P3. And that could have been the difference between finishing 5th in the championship for Charles Leclerc and finishing 1st.
Absolutely, yeah. Your hopes and dreams were shattered in one single race. But look, we started where we left off, and the Twitch stream, everyone tuned in to see your Ferrari pain, and we've got a nice little montage of Ferrari pain already after one season of P1. So thanks.
After one race, really.
Yeah, we did. We did our live show after 3 races, and we had a compilation already.
We certainly did, because it really didn't go too well, did it? But no, Alonso's move on Hamilton was brilliant. You don't see moves at the turn 10 double left-hander. It's one of the trickiest spots on the track to spot your braking point and so on and so forth. It is not an overtaking spot, and Alonso just fancied it. It was obviously a lot quicker at that stage in the race, and just I think the fact it was on Hamilton as well. This is not your favourite moment if that was on Logan Sargent, is it really? You know
No,
what I mean? Alonso,
we've said this before, moves are always better when they're on a world champion.
Drivers.
Yeah.
100%. So yeah, well done, Alonso. I hope you're happy with the podium from Bahrain. Australia now, and this favourite moment comes in from Rowan M04. Australia's red flag restart chaos. And my goodness me, wasn't it chaos? So that was it all started from Magnussen hitting the wall to bring out a red flag. And then we love a 2-lap shootout, don't we, Tommy? Like a right at the end of the race, red flag, let's go racing again. Forget everything else. It is now complete. It is like next goal wins, essentially. And that is exactly how the drivers treated turn 1 Australia when it was the restart, of course, with the really low grip that they were all experiencing. It actually surprised a lot of the drivers, as we saw.
Yes, so many people locked up into that first turn. And it's something that we mentioned in the podcast that we did with Ocon, because we actually spoke to him just not long after this race and said, you can't win at the first corner, but when there's only 2 laps to go and there's the first corner and it's a standing start, you absolutely can. And that's what everyone wanted to do, because they know that even if you're 5th in the race and you make an absolute dive bomb in second place, you're probably finishing second, because there's going to be no DRS because it's only 2 laps and this is your chance to go for it. Everyone went for it. There was utter carnage. And yeah, it was just absolute chaos. And the funniest thing about it is it created this whole debate of whether, sport versus show, is it ridiculous? And, why are they prioritizing the show over pure racing? And then we had pure racing where Max Verstappen won every single race and we all complained that it was boring.
And then we would have taken a 2-lap shootout for the rest of the season. Yeah. So obviously with Alonso being hit by Sainz, Sainz got that penalty, which was a massive discussion as well, wasn't it? Around, how can a lap not really count? And yet Sainz gets a penalty. And then it obviously transpired that the lap did count. And it was actually the next lap that they then started again after another red flag because the 2 Alpines exploded. And it was then, that was a whole discussion as well, where you had, that's a surprise that no one got a penalty, despite Gasly yeeting Ocon into the wall because they are teammates. And of course, they probably both went, no, neither of us are at fault here. Absolutely not. And then one of my favourite moments, at least from Twitch, is of course your reaction to Hulkenberg being in 4th. It was, I've never seen you. Look, for those of people that think that Tommy isn't a Max Verstappen fan, I agree. He is a Nico Hulkenberg fan, and it came out during that Australia red flag chaos.
We never saw me on Twitch when Max was at Toro Rosso and was an underdog, and when he was doing things, because then I would have been exactly the same. I love an underdog moment. And
proof? I don't see any.
But this is the thing with Hulkenberg. I was watching the timing tower and I was like, wow, Hulkenberg's really high up. Sainz is probably going to get a penalty. Then I think it was Lance Stroll locked up into the corner and he made through some more places. And the reason I was like, oh my God, he's 4th was because I'm thinking if Sainz gets a penalty here, Hulkenberg's actually going to get a podium. It's happening. This is it. Yeah. And then, alas, they did a count back, even though a lot of drivers had already been crashed into, so they couldn't do the count back. Sainz still got a penalty, even though it was a count back, which is another kind of topic of debate. And then Hulkenberg just finished, got dropped down the order anyway into 7th, I think it was. So still got some points, but it did feel like it was so close to that first podium. And then it's actually funny that Sainz, the whole debate over that penalty has just reminded me that Sainz got that controversial and probably, he said, the most unfair penalty in existence. And then I think he probably said the same thing about this, like the 2 most controversial penalties of the whole year were both Carlos Sainz.
Very true. It's very true. So yeah, that feels so long ago.
It does feel forever ago.
Chaos, doesn't it? Right, let's go to Monaco next with... that's a great username, isn't it? clapped, says TI, and they have come in. And theirs was Verstappen's Monaco pole lap. Yeah, here's your Max. This is the Max moment now. Monaco qualifying in general was unbelievable, wasn't it? There was
goated
action everywhere. In the end, I think everyone was like, Max has done it again. But that was mainly because Fernando Alonso was on provisional pole at that very moment. And Max Verstappen had one of the best final sectors you will ever witness in the history of motorsport ever, to claw back almost 0.3 of a second of the deficit that he had to then take pole by, what was it in the end? It was
0.08.
0.084.
Just under a tenth, yeah.
Hit the wall as well, didn't he? Coming out, which we were lucky enough to be out in Monaco, and we saw when we were going back to, was it going back to our hotel?
We got a taxi down the main straight, and you could see the tyre print in the wall, which was really cool. But yeah, it was. And you got out and licked it, didn't you? Hey, that was private. Yeah, it was an unbelievable lap. Obviously, for me, mixed feelings because Alonso was on provisional pole, but it was witnessing Verstappen greatness really, and I know a lot of people, mainly Verstappen fans, sort of count that as almost like we're over the Saudi lap that never was in 2021 because he kind of did this incredible qualifying lap.
Didn't Christian say that, this was the last sector or something from Saudi? That
could have been, because it was almost the reverse, that in Saudi he was so far ahead of everyone that he just needed to cool down, but he was Max Verstappen and wanted to do that perfect lap and go absolutely ham. But instead, in this case, he was 0.2 down, so had to go for it. And the second part of the swimming pool might be the greatest corner ever taken by a Formula One driver. If you watch the precision of how close he was to that wall, it looks impossible that you cannot get a better line through a corner than that, because a millimetre closer, and we've seen this so many times at that second bit of the swimming pool, he's bumping the tyre, knocks you off balance, and you go straight into the wall. And he's
done it himself.
He's done it himself. He has, exactly. And it's just precision. It was insane. And then I love seeing a Formula One car just kind of look a bit crazy and on edge. And the fact that he smacked into the wall on the fire straight showed that he was just like giving it absolutely everything. And Monaco qualifying in general was just absolutely amazing. And just a shout out to Monaco that basically justifies it, because the Saturday is so good that it doesn't matter if the Sunday's terrible. But then also at the same time, I still had to get it in. Yeah. But although at the same time, Monaco arguably was one of the better races at the start of the season, ironically, because had a bit of jeopardy in the rain and stuff. Yeah, jeopardy in the sense of the rain coming down, and yet nothing happened despite the rain coming. That was the strangest thing for me. Is like there was almost a flash flood in Monaco. They were all on dry tyres, and no one ended up in the wall. It was such a weird thing to watch before our eyes, because this is going to change everything, and then it changed nothing. It did. It was a crazy race, really. There was always that. We were, of course, lucky enough to be there, and I was sat in the grandstand at the point where it started raining, and I rushed back to the energy station to watch it on TV so I could absorb what was going on. But yeah, it was a good. How often do you think about Alonso not pitting for wets? I guess now we look back on manager scenario, and it was possible. Yeah, I think looking back on it now, the fact that he didn't get that win, this was the one where he could have definitely won, because also being that close, if Max hadn't done that lap, he was P5 at that point. If he starts P5, he's not winning the race. And he was 0.2 down through that middle sector. You're thinking, he's not even going to improve at this point. And exactly. And then he got pole because Max Verstappen in 2023. Yes, absolutely. Silverstone is up next, and P1 Patreon member Ruben and Katie Loves F1 both picked this as their favourite moment, and it's, of course, Lando Norris taking the lead.
And this gives me serious goosebumps. It really does. Watching it back, the cheer, just the fact that McLaren were actually going to give us a fight for the win was it hit hard. It hit right to the feels because of course McLaren only at the start of the year were incredibly washed, and then come Silverstone, Mika Hakkinen, the Oracle, has predicted this, and it's come true. And it was what an amazing race. And again, we were very lucky to be there. So for those people that say that we jinx races, we don't, because we had a great Monaco and we had a great Silverstone. And we had a great Vegas. So look, Tommy, we aren't the problem.
We aren't the problem. I mean, McLaren had an awful start to the season, like you said. They
and
were
a great Zandvoort. Sorry.
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Are we the fix?
I'd say they were some of the best races of the year, definitely.
You're welcome.
We weren't at Singapore, but we did interview Carlos Sainz and it made him the GOAT. So it's all us, really.
Everything leads back to us, yes.
Yeah, Silverstone, the fact that McLaren were having an awful start to the season. Lando had done well in Austria the previous race, but he always does well in Austria, and we kind of just thought it was a bit of a flash in the pan. So when Lando put it P2 in quali, Piastri P3 as well, it was like, what? Where have McLaren come from? And you mentioned Mika Hakkinen. It's the fact that it was such a specific prediction as well. He said something like, an upgrade's coming at Silverstone and they'll be challenging Red Bull. And we're like, haha, that's hilarious, because at that point they were like 7th in the constructors and nowhere. And then, boom, they're there. Lando's taken the lead into turn 1, which shows it's impressive, because we've seen time and time again, even in that very last race in Abu Dhabi, that it takes a lot to get past Max into turn 1, because he is super aggressive. You really have to like absolutely nail it. And Lando just got the perfect start. And the cheer, like you say, it is goosebumps, even as a Max fan there, like being at Silverstone, because it was just like...
As a Nico Hulkenberg fan, you mean?
Sorry, as a Hulkenberg fan, yeah. We've got we've got a race on now. This is going to be epic, and Lando was leading for quite a few laps, and then even Piastri was like challenging Max into some of the corners as well, and it's like, oh my god, McLaren are the GOATs. Like, what? Like, is everyone going to start painting their car chrome now? Is this what the secret is? Like, it's insane.
I do wonder, I just thought, Mika Hakkinen, he's the Oracle. What about if he has just leaked information that he's been told by a McLaren engineer or something? He's gone, yeah, mate, honestly, don't tell anyone, but we've got a serious upgrade coming, and we've seen it on the simulations. We're going to be 7/10 a lap quicker than we were. And he's just gone, McLaren are going to be really quick at Silverstone. What about that?
Yeah, the fact that he called that, he must have known something. Like, he must have heard something. And it's weird, isn't it, how they seem to know how the other teams are going to participate. Because there was someone else that mentioned it, I can't remember who it was, that mentioned that McLaren might be good at Silverstone. So there's obviously this rumour going around that they bought upgrades, and it's strange that everything gets back to all the teams and somehow they know that it's going to be good. But for us, as fans, it was a complete surprise, really, that it happened.
To that extent, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, McLaren, for giving us that great moment with Silverstone. Zandvoort now, and the favourite moment comes in from Nimue 11. The Zandvoort Grand Prix chaos, and we, as we mentioned, we were in Zandvoort. We were sat there on Sunday in the little Red Bull motorhome hospitality type thing. Thank you, Red Bull, for having me across the season at occasional moments and not kicking me out for being a Ferrari fan. I really appreciate it. We were watching, weren't we, on the TV screen in there? We could kind of see a tiny bit of car go past as they entered the main straight, sort of just past the curve, and we were sat there, and it was amazing. It was such a unique viewing experience to be sat there watching it on TV, but knowing immediately if the rain was coming or not, and changing.
We saw the rain, yeah.
Yeah, because that was obviously the big thing was, is it going to start raining again? Is it not? Is it going to dry up? And so on and so forth. And, you see it and you go, oh, it's dried up. And then the heavens opened at the end. And it was carnage throughout.
It was. Yeah, I remember being sat, like you say, watching in the Red Bull energy station, could see a bit of the track. We saw that, we knew they were on the formation lap and looking out the window. And I remember, do you remember those like seats next to us where they were kind of like, essentially like you could see the water like pooling in the seats, so you knew how much water was falling. And on the formation lap, we were like, oh my God, it's properly raining. Like, they're going to and I think, every Formula One fan can relate to this, where you're just like, but don't rain too much, because then they'll stop they'll do a restart and they won't do the proper start. So like, we need to get going, then it can rain. And that's exactly what happened, because they all started on dry tyres. I think, I want to say Bottas even thought that he should come in on the formation lap and do a Marcus Winkelhock, which is a bit of an old school reference for people that don't know. He was, I can't believe that's an old school reference. It's only 2007 in my head, is recent, but it's not. Who pitted basically like on a formation lap. It rained, and then he ended up leading in what was essentially the worst car in the field. And I thought someone might do that. It was Nürburgring.
Nürburgring, yeah.
And I thought something might happen again like that, but instead they all got to that the final sector on the first lap, and it was like torrential rain. Like, I can't believe not everyone decided to come in the pits at that point. It was only Perez and Leclerc and I think a couple of others. Yeah,
Ferrari did a really good pit stop for Leclerc.
Yeah, that was the 1.2 second pit stop, I think it was. Oh no, sorry, that was the one where they had no tyres and he was not there. Yeah, that was it.
Sorry? I thought we were reflecting on good moments. I'm allowed to bring up little Ferrari fails here and there. You don't then just twist the knife there. You know what I mean? That's crazy. But yeah, on reflection, that's one of the ones I'm like, why did not more drivers come into the pits? Because it was absolutely heaving it down.
Well, Perez came in first and he had a 14-second lead on Verstappen.
Yeah,
just by doing one extra lap on him.
And 14 second lead in about 5 laps.
Yeah, exactly. But it just shows that, say like a Fernando Alonso had come in on lap 1, who was running near the front. You never know, like maybe he wouldn't have been caught as much by Max or something, and then the fact that was that the race where Lando was out on dry tyres and McLaren said, you're running at the same pace as the Inters, and he went, are you dumb or something?
Yeah. He was. I remember that. Yeah, that team radio. He was genuinely, because he was getting passed left, right, and centre.
Yeah, like,
no, you're running at the same pace as everyone around you. And I can only imagine his engineer has looked at his lap time compared to drivers that have just done an out lap and gone, well, you're running at the same time as them when they'd actually just come into the pits.
Everyone's flying past them on Inters, and Perez is already 14 seconds down the road, and he's like, no, we're not the same. Like,
I wish McLaren one day would just get a good call for changeable weather conditions.
They were good at Zandvoort, so it's a really hard track to pass. Like I said about Alonso, but yeah, if say Lando did the call and he was 14 seconds up the road on Verstappen, maybe it's a different story and he could have challenged for the win there. But alas, they just lost so much time. And then, of course, had another rainstorm right at the end, which caused more chaos just when we thought, the race is kind of ending, and now I've just remembered off the top of my head that was the most overtakes we've ever seen in Formula One in a race at Zandvoort, of all places. Like the one track that everyone says is not suitable really for modern Formula One, is only there because Max is winning. And we had the most overtakes in the history of F1 in one race, which is mad.
That is a serious F1 pub quiz question, to have that locked in.
Because everyone will be like, it must be Silverstone, must be
Silverstone.
Yeah.
No, Zandvoort. That's quite something. And then, of course, I'm surprised you haven't brought it up already yet, Tommy, but with 5 laps to go, there was the restart after the chaotic rainstorm that we saw come in towards the end of the race, and it was like, for those, when you're at home, you go, why have they red flagged it with so little time to go? But when we were there, like, the wind was ridiculously strong. The rain was
it was
coming
so
down
bad.
like no tomorrow. So you kind of were just you had a bit of an understanding as to just how bad, and perhaps cameras don't do justice to sometimes the weather that is actually unfolding.
Yeah, and then a weird moment for us was essentially the legends at Red Bull, who you mentioned have been lovely to us this year, invited us to come under the podium at the end. So we were so conflicted, weren't we? Because we're like, oh my god, there's a restart with 5 laps to go, and it could be close. We don't know what's going to happen, but also, so we kind of had to just like listen to what was going on and kind of keep up on our phones before like legging it through the garage and under the podium.
Well, we made a measured decision, didn't we? I think it was like 2 laps to go, and we thought, well, Verstappen is over a second clear of Alonso now. No problem. He's got this in the bag.
Yeah.
And that was the first time, and of many times now, Tommy, that you took up running. You were like,
that was when I decided I need to run.
I'm going to shave off some tenths.
Yeah.
Because that would have been. Can you imagine if we'd left with 5 laps to go, gone to the podium, and then you would have seen Alonso on the top step? You would.
I'd be like, what?
Huh?
Yeah. And yeah, that just from a own personal perspective, that was one of the most unbelievable things as a Formula One fan to experience. That was like, just never could have dreamed of experiencing something like that. It was so cool, so good.
It really was, wasn't it? It was
very
a moment we were both completely and utterly in awe of, and I still haven't washed my jumper, which is the Danny Ric Enchante jumper. It's still covered in celebratory fireworks from the podium and Fernando Alonso's champagne, I'm going to call it, just for the sake of being PG. Okay, let's go to Italy now. Apparently nobody decided to put this in as their favourite moment, probably because the only people that might have done it was Ferrari fans, but it was too good battle, was it? It was Sainz versus Leclerc. Sainz versus Leclerc, the battle for P3. Yeah, no, it wasn't my favourite moment. It's one of my least favourite moments.
How was your heart rate?
Especially not good. If that had been for P1, I might have keeled over and died, because it was the moment we've spoken about for so long. They're gonna come together, Sainz versus Leclerc. Then they're not gonna get on. Yada yada yada, and it's never really happened. But when Charles locked up both of his fronts under the rear wing of Carlos Sainz, I thought it was done.
How did they not? I've watched it back since because I was writing these notes about what happened, and there were 2 moments. There was one where with 4 laps to go, Leclerc made the move. He passes, but then he locks up, and Sainz out the first corner gets the slingshot, and he, the commentary when you watch it back from David Coulthard, he's like that the car ghosted because they must have touched. Like it, I've never seen 2 cars get that close together. Like it must be a millimeter from them crashing, because he just pulls up alongside him, and there is no gap between them at all. It's absolutely insane. Like my heart rate was going. I can't imagine like what it was like to be a Ferrari fan and the Tifosi there. Like it's just insane. And then the bit at the end, where Leclerc almost hits the back, and then the most ironic thing as well, where there was a team radio saying no risk seconds before it, and then they almost plow into each other.
It was like no risk, and then Charles went for the biggest dive bomb of all time.
Which, when it happened and you knew you were all right, everything was all right, it was like fair play for letting them race. But I think you said in the podcast, why did they let them race?
Yeah, I was like, of all the times to call it off, it's in Italy at Monza when you've got a podium against both of your own drivers.
Ferrari, when Michael Schumacher has a 300-point lead in the championship. No, Barrichello, move over. And then when it's for nothing, and it's P3 and P4 just to secure it onto the lap, no, battle it out on the last lap to win. Go for it. Just, and as if you crash, it doesn't matter.
And as we discussed, if it was the other way around, I think they would have maybe called it off. But we won't get into that topic. So yes, that wasn't. Yeah, it was a very cool moment. It's one that you go fair. Yeah, as you say,
it's awesome to watch back now, but maybe people didn't pick it because the too much trauma from it, because if you're a Ferrari fan, it probably wasn't fun to watch, even though it was those two battling.
It wasn't fun until afterwards, knowing that they hadn't crashed. Then it's great. Singapore is up next. P1 Patreon member Duwajust's favourite moment, and also a lot of other people's favourite moment, which was, of course, the 4-car battle for the win. And of those 4 cars, not one of them was Max Verstappen. We could not believe it. We thought it was going to be a Red Bull clean sweep until Singapore, where they were just horrendous. Singapore is the giant slayer of Formula One tracks, and it just didn't work for Red Bull. And instead, you had Leclerc, Norris, Russell, and Hamilton at the end fighting for the win. It was sensational.
I don't think you said
I said Sainz,
I don't think
Norris.
you said Sainz, did you? Oh, sorry.
I'm pretty sure I did.
In my head, it just scene missing. Maybe you did. Apologies.
Either or, you know that Sainz obviously was in the mix because he won.
Yes. Yeah. It was unbelievable. The fact that Max was, he was nowhere. I can't believe he finished 5th and almost got 4th, and he was absolutely flying at the end and showed that maybe what might have been, because essentially Red Bull got screwed with strategy because they lost a pit stop because there was a safety car at a bad time, and then also the VSC came just after they decided to pit. So if they'd have pitted behind the VSC, it would have gained a bit more time. But it was incredible to watch. And the fact that the Mercedes took that gamble to go on the medium tyres at the end, and because they were all running together, it was one of those weird races where it's so exciting, but there's nothing happening in a weird way. Like, they're not passing each other, but it's just tense because you know it will come down to the end. And the fact that the Mercedes, pitted for the mediums, Russell giving up quite a good track position. I think he was running second at the time. And then they obviously caught up to the back of them. And I will just never forget that moment of watching where you had all 4 cars within about a second and a half of each other. And, it's not just the fact that Red Bull dominated the season. I think we'd had quite a lot of lackluster racing as well. Like, there wasn't too much to shout about during the season. And it was like, and we now have a 4-car battle for the win. And somehow none of them are a Red Bull. It was absolutely insane. And it was, your heart was just like racing. It was that weird kind of moment where there's no overtaking and no one's really doing too much, but it's just what you love about Formula One. It's just heart is like racing. It's just like, oh my God, this is so tense.
Yeah, it was massively. And it doesn't have to need overtakes in order for it to be an exciting race. And, when Gasly won at Monza and Danny Rick won at Monza, these are 2 examples we constantly bring up of times where it wasn't like it was side by side for the last 5 laps to see who wins. And this was a similar thing. Carlos Sainz executing one of the greatest strategies of all time, of giving Lando Norris DRS in order for him to defend from the 2 Mercedes behind. And I think we forget just how close Russell was to overtaking Norris. And had he got through, that was it. That would have been George Russell winning another race for Mercedes. And then, Hamilton missing out once again. And of course, there was that whole conversation around should Russell have let Hamilton through to try and attack. There's no way in hell George Russell would have ever let Lewis Hamilton through. Even with direct team orders, I think he still would have gone for the win. Which is fine. They're a racing driver, right? It's just on reflection, you think, if Hamilton was the car ahead, I think Hamilton might have actually won that race. But what a Grand Prix, race of the season in a lot of ways, just by how it ended. And then, of course, George making that mistake right at the end and hitting the wall. Lando sort of baiting him into smashing into the wall by brushing his right rear onto the barrier, which then brought George into it as well. It was it was manic. But I just remember being on Twitch going, "Look, Tommy! Look, they're all there on the straight together to win the race!" Like, it was crazy.
It's funny because the 5-star review at the start of the show is like, these guys aren't experts, they're just Formula One fans. And I think that moment was us being Formula One fans and not experts, because we probably gave absolutely no analysis at all. We were just going, oh my God, look at them. Oh my God, this is amazing. Because it was just so exciting. And yeah, the science strategy was incredible. And of course, Ferrari, being Ferrari, were like, you do realize Lando's behind you. What are you doing? He's like, I'm doing it on purpose. And it's like,
that was cold. That was such a cold
it was awesome, wasn't it? It was like, I know what I'm doing. It was basically the science school of Kimi, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, awesome. And what a win from science to do it in that way, where it does such a clever bit of strategy and kind of like, it was a thinking race rather than like pure speed, and sometimes that is really, really cool, and science just executed it to perfection.
He certainly did. Next up, Qatar. Anna Magyar comes in with their favourite moment, when Piastri got his first win as a rookie. Okay, it's a sprint, but it's still impressive in brackets. Yes, Qatar, the time where we kind of wondered what if for McLaren, because they turned up on the wrong day to obviously win the Qatar sprint with Piastri. Norris had a little bit more pace, definitely made that mistake in qualifying, but you know, the limelight went to Oscar, and quite rightly he delivered when his teammate didn't, and he ended up winning the sprint, which, you know, on one side we go, wow, that's such an amazing achievement, he's a race winner. On the other side, doesn't feel like he's a race winner.
Yeah, it's tough because you can take nothing away from him. It's a brilliant achievement, but yeah, even the drivers know. I think you saw what happened with Lando in Brazil when he qualified really well for the sprint and didn't for the main race, and he knew he was going to be quick in the main race and looked very dejected, and he was like, oh yay, there's a sprint tomorrow. It still doesn't mean as much to the drivers, but the Piastri, you know, no one, he's one of only, still in a race, if you got to count it as a race to a point, that other than a Red Bull that won something. You know, he beat Max Verstappen, which is, Max also won most of the sprints, didn't he? So it was incredible from Piastri. He managed it really well.
Wasn't this the only sprint that Max didn't win?
Perez won the sprint in Baku, pretty sure.
Oh yeah, no, Max didn't win all of them, no.
Yeah, but Red Bull obviously won all of them apart from this
Red Bull
one.
won all of them.
Yeah, and the fact that he kept his cool, that he was on mediums and Russell was on the softs, and Russell actually got into the lead. There was so much action in this Qatar sprint. It was changing. The fact that this is the dream that we always want from the sprint, is just have cars on different tyres and then some absolutely fly through the field and the tyres go off at the end, so they have that advantage at the start and lose it at the end, and that's exactly what happened. Russell, it looked like a brilliant decision when he was in the lead, but then he dropped all the way back, and then you realise that mediums were actually the way to go. That makes it really exciting, and it was an awesome sprint. And then until I watched this back, I completely forgot this was the race, in inverted commas, the race that Max was actually crowned champion. So Oscar won his sprint, and then of course Max was crowned champion on a Saturday, which was quite unusual as well.
Yeah, crowned on a Saturday, and also crowned by not winning, which felt wrong considering he'd won almost everything else.
Yeah, the only thing he didn't win.
The time he was crowned was when he didn't win. But yes, Qatar was definitely a great one. Brazil. Ace 12 Adams' favourite moment, Alonso and Perez battle in Brazil. We didn't have an absolute worldie at Interlagos, did we? The sprint
was very good.
The sprint was better than the main race, which I remember was one of my crazy predictions. I was going to say you're welcome. No, I'm sorry, because we didn't want that to come true. But Alonso versus Perez, where do you even begin with how Fernando Alonso, the sensei, just teaching everybody how to defend in a Formula One racing car? It was stunning. The way in which he just took different lines. He didn't go for the orthodox way of doing things and defending, and it was simply the greatest defensive display I think that's ever been seen in Formula One. I'll say it right now.
Since Fernando Alonso at Hungary.
Since Fernando Alonso, yeah, at Hungary, yeah. Fair. But I think with it being Brazil as well, this was almost a harder.
It was a sitting duck
in the way
really.
in which he did, and also got back past and got a podium as well.
That is the most shocking thing for me is that you thought, Fernando's not going to hold on here, and you're like, he has to stay ahead because as soon as Perez is ahead, he's gone. Like, no chance. So the fact that he managed to do the smart thing, because when he didn't get back past him, like Perez made that move with a couple of laps to go, and then when Alonso didn't, he obviously gets DRS, but he didn't pass Perez at turn 4 on that lap. You thought, that's it, it's game over. But to stay within the DRS, then he knew he'd get a nice run down to turn 1, and then Fernando essentially like outsmarting Perez rather than making a big dive or anything. He just did enough to bait Perez into defending the inside. Knew he'd get, as soon as Perez is offline, he'd get a great run down to turn 4, and it just worked perfectly. And then even then it wasn't over because you knew that Perez would get an amazing slingshot. And of course Formula One shared a screenshot of like the camera on the line.
Photo finish.
It's so rare in Formula One to see a photo finish, and the fact that 2 cars crossing the line for the final podium spot, 0.05 is absolutely insane. I think it was probably about a tyre in it over a whole 71 laps of the Brazilian Grand Prix. It was just awesome. And like looking back on this, it's and spoiler alert into the next one. Been a lot of moves on the last lap actually. The best moments are the kind of the battling on the last lap, and you don't tend to see that a lot in Formula One. But for quite a meh season, there's been a few of them.
What a beautiful segue to the final race that we're going to go into, and is of course Las Vegas, and my favourite moment, Charles Leclerc passing Perez on the last lap. And I think more encompassing just the fact that we had a battle for the lead, including Charles Leclerc. That was lovely as well. I really enjoyed that. It felt like it had been a long time since I actually believed. And my belief wasn't misplaced for a lot of the time during that race. And had it not been for a rogue safety car, thanks to actually Verstappen and Russell coming together,
master plan,
Charles Leclerc might well have won that race, which doesn't haunt me at all. I don't think about it when I go to bed. But he left a mark, old Charles Leclerc. Because of course on lap 43 of 50 he locked up and lost P2 to Perez. But on the final lap, last corner, just sends it. And I will say that Perez didn't execute the greatest defence that anyone's ever seen. It wasn't like he'd learnt anything from Fernando Alonso in Brazil and decided to apply it for himself. Instead, he left the door open. Go on, Charles, outbrake me. And he went, okay, and then did. And it was, beautiful move. Could have easily overshot it and ended up in the barrier, but instead slowed it down beautifully and secured a lovely little P2.
Yeah, it was a sensational move. The fact that he executed it so well that Perez obviously got a nice run on him, but ironically Verstappen was trying to help Perez, and all he ended up doing was towing Charles across the line a bit more, which helped Charles out as well. But it was a fantastic move. Like I said before, watch that clip back again, and I love that final sector of Vegas. It looks high speed and dramatic, and watching someone like pull off an overtake, and then as they kind of like race around that really quick corner into the final across the line, it was awesome. And Vegas was a really, really good race. The fact that you had 3 guys battling it out for the win was very unexpected, and just a really thrilling race. It felt, the high-speed nature of the track reminded me almost a little bit of like Bahrain Short, where it just didn't feel like you ever had a breather, because there's no real, I think there's like one slow corner, isn't there, on the whole track really, and not like a silly we've got to have a slow bit where all the cars go really slow and it's really clumsy. Just high-speed corners everywhere. And yeah, it was a really, really cool race. Really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. Charles Leclerc converting pole position once again for another victory. Lasted all
12 in a row
meters, isn't it, that one? But then Max got that penalty and so on and so forth. And we've discussed that many times. But Charles had a good lead for 50 meters. It was great. And then finally, there's one shout out that comes in from Ghetto Trude that says, "I know it's cheesy, but my favourite moment were experiencing the season with you and the P1 gang. It is so nice to have a community of nice people enjoying the same things oneself does. Sharing one's excitement about something as well as sharing the Ferrari pain. Thank you." Well, look, 2024 is going to be different. If you enjoy P1 just purely for Ferrari pain, then you got another thing coming. So you're going to hate 2024 when Charles Leclerc wins 24 races in a row. And
Clip
then
it now.
the entire one of these season review favourite moments will just be the whole season all over again. I'll be like, round one, Bahrain, Charles wins.
There'll be every social media comment will be like, what was your favourite moment of the season? Oh, the one that Charles didn't win. So boring. Charles Leclerc dominance.
Singapore, God, he lost that. He almost got a Ferrari clean sweep. Unbelievable.
But
yes,
thank you to that. It was very nice.
It is, that is a lovely message from you, Ghetto Truth. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to everybody else as well. I'm sure we've had a lot of messages, people clipping up, screenshotting, that's the word, the Spotify Unwrapped, and lots of people saying that they love the podcast and listening, and they've been listening for thousands of minutes since we launched in February. So I want to apologise for the fact that you've had to absorb our washed opinions for so long. And thank you for spending your time with us doing that. Tommy, what has been your favourite moment, but not on track? What's been your favourite moment? It's not final thoughts today. What's been your favourite moment?
On track. In terms of just as in like Twitch, I guess.
Well, anything that you've done.
Well, I guess during the year I kind of mentioned it that we've done some incredible things this year, and that is, thanks to you guys supporting this venture and helping the success to it, because we did this hoping that we'd get to do some cool experiences, and I could never have imagined the experiences we did. I mean, the one that stands out to me is that podium as a Formula One fan. Like, it was just like, so, I know it sounds such a weird thing to say, but like just experiencing it with my own eyes, my brain was just going, you're under the podium, this is like insane. And you could I was right near where they were coming into Parc Ferme and celebrating and stuff, and because you've just watched that moment as a fan for years and years and years and years, and didn't think that was ever possible unless you became a mechanic or something for a team or whatever. I'd never thought I'd be able to do it. And of course the fact that it was Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen up there as well, I was just just champagne, just go for it. And it was incredible. And again, just thank you for that kind message and everyone that supported us. I have so many Instagram tags of Spotify Wrapped, and it blows my mind seeing 6,000 minutes listened, and I just think, how on earth are you listening to my dulcet tones for that long? But
it's such a dulcet tone, isn't it? It's beautiful. It's funny, that Alonso podium moment in Zandvoort, you'd have been absolutely fine if you'd been camping, because you'd already pitched a tent when that was happening. So.
God's sake. Oh, no.
I thought I'd end it in something terrible. And my favourite moment, thanks for asking, Tommy, is, what do you think it is?
Charles Leclerc in Bahrain? No. Charles Leclerc in Miami? No. Charles Leclerc in Spain? No. Charles Leclerc in...
I just realised what you were doing, you absolute tool bag. No, it's when Charles Leclerc called me babe.
Yeah, of course.
That's it. That's the
That'll
highlight.
never be topped. That's when you pitched a tent.
Well, Danny Rick held my leg as well. And on that note, I really have. Thank you everybody for watching and listening. Sorry we ended it in such a crude manner. And we will see you very soon for another piece of content. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.